Hello, everyone. I am Bonnie Worth. I am meeting some of you for the very first time this evening, and many of you have been returning with me night after night here for A Medium's World. I really am enjoying the unfolding of these conversations. I'm loving the feedback from so many of you as well. I appreciate your comments and, of course, your emails. The one thing I hear often, or especially for brand new people who start their mediumship journey with me, they really do kind of question whether or not they're really a medium. And maybe many of you have been going through that yourself. Well, I can tell you that your even questioning whether or not you're a medium is an indication that you're a medium. You were a medium the very first time that you thought you might be. You were a medium the very first time that maybe some paranormal activities or you began to have experiences with the spirit world. You were a medium the very first time you were intrigued or became interested in a medium's world, whether it's been this event or whether it was a series of events that led you, that have played out over your life. There is, without a doubt, a deeper sense of connection and awareness made to us of the spirit world. Now, that happens at different times and in different ways, which, of course, we've discussed many of those already in this event, and we'll have continue those conversations even as we move forward here this evening, just in helping us to become aware of our own abilities, our own connection to the spirit world. It is our birthright to remain connected with these individuals on the other side. And again, as I've shared, this is something anyone can do. It's there. No medium is more special than anyone else. And I don't believe that, even any medium is special. I think that, we all come forward with unique capacities and beautiful abilities to be able to engage with the spirit world. And the spirit chooses their ambassador for them based on the types of messages that maybe they deliver, how they articulate the messages, as well as their personal bias, which is the things that that individual has experienced in their life, which they can relate to at a very deep level. The spirit world tends to utilize these ambassadors, these mediums, as a way and means to be able to speak to some of the things that we understand at a deep level. Because we've walked through it, it allows for them to really utilize us to move into a messaging or into a connection in a much more meaningful and healing way. So welcome here again this evening. And as with every night, we're going to begin our time together by bringing this circle into connection. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in which to do that. And we fall into this place. Here we are on St. Valentine's Day, the day of love, the day that not only do we celebrate the love and the relationships that we have in our life, but we also long and miss those relationships of those loved ones who have gone on before us. And so today we celebrate all love in whatever form, whether that be in our physical world or it be in the non-physical. Love is definitely love, and love is what heals. It's what connects us. And so as you fall into a natural rhythm with your inhale and exhale, just allow yourself to sink into your heart. Love is the path to transformation. It is the alchemical and the miraculous. There is a purity of love, the beauty that connects us to our own innate spiritual perfection. It's an invisible, powerful field of grace that moves with us, that holds us, comforts us. the generosity of divine grace both inspires, intervenes, and blesses every single one with the same love from the universal heart that loves all beings. And as we inhale and we exhale, we begin to fall deeper into connection with each other, our spiritual brothers, our spiritual sisters, cultivating and radiating this consciousness of love that soothes, that heals, the inducing medicine of the soul. So as you begin to consciously connect to the flow of your breath, I invite you to place your hand on your heart and let the breath flow in and out, allowing you to deepen, allowing you to relax with reverence and respect for yourself and for all beings. This breath that allows you to go deeper, that allows you to go within your own heart to the sacred temple within, a beautiful place that is filled with light and space. Just breathe here, rest here, with the love that you are and the acknowledgement of its precious nature. If you are holding any pain in your heart, whether from this or any other lifetime, you can just witness it now being gently dissolved, healed with compassion, allowing in more beauty, more light, more space, more love. As you breathe, allow your sense of love for your heart and the love that your heart has for you. With every heartbeat, it becomes stronger, more nourishing. An energy and frequency that allows you to become peaceful, healed within through your own heart connection. Love is what holds the space for all of our experiences. Love is our connection to our loved ones on the other side and is the portal and the gateway to our connection with those who are no longer in physical form. Love is the bridge, the sacred holding of the heart allows for those whom you love to connect with you, or for you to connect with those on the other side on the behalf of others. Rest here, breathe here, ground here, allowing this energy to infuse your body, your mind, your space. And this love to bring each of us together as if we are sitting at a table, hand in hand, sharing in an intimate conversation, the witnessing of authentic truth, the allowing of vulnerability, the vulnerability to be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed, and understood for the truth of who we all are at our deepest level. And may this conversation here tonight, as we gather around the sacred table, enlighten, heal, bring peace, excitement, and even more love into all of our lives. And for this and so much more, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. I am the light I am. We are feeling the love today. And oh my gosh, how wonderful it is that we get to spend it here together, gathered in our circle. A special welcome to our guest tonight, Diane Quartly, who is joining us. Diane, I've had the pleasure of knowing Diane for I don't even know how many years already. She has been one of the first kind of groups of people that I had opportunity to mentor and help and support very early on in my program. And she and I have definitely really kind of found purpose in service through our connection to the spirit world. Diane is I mean, she has a very profound connection to spirit, and her work really focuses on helping individuals recover from their losses and their grief, and creates those afterlife connections that really help all of us to be able to understand and tune in to life itself. Diane, I want to welcome you to the conversation here tonight, and so appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be a part of the conversation.
Well, thank you, Bonnie. It's such an honor to be here. I'm so glad to be part of this group. And I've been listening to all the interviews and it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've been loving it too. And so do you know how many years ago, did we come into each other's worlds? It's got to be at least 10, 12 years, 10
I
years.
think it was about 2015 or 2016.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah. Been a very
Wow.
long time. I mean, truly, and so grateful that, Spirit brought us together. And of course, you've been doing some amazing work over all of these years. I love how you really jumped into it. And I remember, as we were in the workshop and really helping you to nurture it, I just remember you running up to me and you'd say, "Oh my gosh, this has been happening. This makes so much sense. This is it. I get it." And then you'd go sit back down, right? He was just these aha moments that really almost seemed to solidify for you on a deep personal level some of the experiences that you had already been having probably for a very long time in your life. Do you remember when you first started connecting with the spirit world? Was it something as a child? Was it something that happened later in life for you? What kind of opened you up?
Well, I think I can't say when it all started because I think it was something that just always had happened for me. I didn't have an aha moment as far as, oh my goodness, this is something new for me, because it was something that I had done my whole life. I just didn't realize that other people couldn't, or I didn't realize that it wasn't something that everybody knew, like 3 steps ahead of things. I was always considered kind of a know-it-all growing up, and it got me in trouble a lot because I would just be so confident in what I knew. I would just say things like, well, of course, this is the way it is. And I think it came off quite brash at times. And, can you imagine a young child saying things so matter-of-factly, like, let's not even have this discussion. I know what I know. So right. That sort of was something that I had to contend with as a child. But it really was the mediumship workshop that I went to with you in Grand Prairie that I think I became more conscious of what I was actually doing. I always wanted to be a medium. I had an experience in my life that caused me to go, I want to connect more consciously to the other side. But it wasn't until your workshop that I realized I was already doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a different idea of what mediumship was. And then when I went to the workshop, it was like, oh, well, I can do that. Well, wait a second, I already do that.
I'm already doing it. That's why I remember you'd come up to me like, I've been doing this. I've been doing this. I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
I just had a different expectation of what mediumship was. I thought it was something beyond me. So yeah, it just sort of gave me to speak the language, to hear you speak the language of it, context for me. It just gave me, just let me know that I was already doing what I thought I wanted to do.
Right. And I mean, and amazing how that works. Do you find that it's been hard for you to come out as a medium? Like, was it easy?
No. You sort of alluded to that. I jumped in right away. It was after your workshop. I literally went home. Facebook was new. I was thinking it must have been before 2015 because I wrote my book in 2015. And it was before that.
It was before then. Exactly.
It was. Yeah, it was before. It was probably 2014 or 2013. And I remember coming home after the workshop, after the weekend, and just going on Facebook. It was fairly new, and just saying, okay, people, this is what I'm doing now. And, put it right on there. If you don't like what I'm going to be doing, then unfriend me. If you want a free reading, I'm practicing for a while, and threw it out there. And it was amazing. I think I counted 40, right around 40 people contact me within 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, all right, I guess this, but I just threw it out there. And the people that came to me, some of them were quite shocking, to say the least. The people that reached out to me just from my friends feed and family feed. And yes, I did 40 or 50 free readings right off the hop, and jumped right in and was doing it every day, and learned and figured out how to do it.
Right. And I love that you said that, because that's exactly what it comes down to. We look at it's great to have the language, and I'm so grateful again that the program gave you the language for things. But the only way to really become skilled in it is to do it. The only way to grow in confidence within your mediumship abilities is to do the readings. Like not sometimes, I think we as humans are so conditioned to want to feel confident before we go up forward and do anything new. And this really is something that asks us to fall into a deeper sense of faith and trust, and the confidence build as a result of doing the very thing that maybe we've been hesitant to take on.
Yeah, I just had no hesitation. I jumped right in.
I know. That's what I loved about,
I was like, oh, well, here we go.
Oh my gosh, right? Oh my, I think, and again, I know you feel this way too. It's the decision, right? There is this, we can be willing to be of service. I know a lot of mediums who are willing to do readings and have a great desire to do readings, but once we make the decision to, it is a completely different ballgame, so to speak. That decision really alters the energy of what being of service entails. You can't define. I don't even know how to define that.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite teachers, Abraham Hicks, and it says, make a decision and talk yourself into it. And I think that's such a profound statement, because it really is. Once you make a decision, and which I did, I just talked myself into it. I didn't talk myself out of it. Too often we talk ourselves out of things. Yeah. We have an idea, we have inspiration, things come to us, and we spend so much time telling ourselves why it won't work, or talking ourselves out of it. Or if we have a decision where there's two directions we can go, quite often we'll go, okay, we'll make this decision, but then we look behind us at the other one and go, is it okay that I didn't make that decision, rather than making a decision and just moving forward and talking yourself into that decision that you've already made. And that's where the power comes from. It's like, just jump in, make your decision, and then look for ways to make that happen.
Right.
Yourself out of it.
I remember even at the beginning of my career in this, I didn't have a backup plan. Like I have no plan B. Like to this day, I have no plan B. So this is, I made the decision to make this happen. And I love what you say, you talk yourself into it. And you do have to be the person that reassures yourself in the moment that you've made the best decision. You followed your heart, or you're doing what feels like is the most truthful way to be expressing your life. And you just continue to be your cheerleader, your advocate. And again, it's the experiences that happen in the readings that begin to solidify that it was the best decision ever. Like I am so grateful beyond words that I just made the decision to do this. And where things have expanded and evolved over the years is just I just feel very, very blessed. And I know, as you said, even shortly after jumping into your business, you published your book. And of course, your book has a lot to do in terms of why you were seeking this spiritual connection. And so if you want, just kind of share your personal story of what and how this just solidified your belief in the spirit world.
Well, I guess that I was seeking, I have 3 boys, 3 sons, and my middle son died. It would be 24 years ago now. He would have just had, on February 8th would have been his birthday. So he was 6. He was run over by one of my best friends at the time. And I guess I can tell the story. The easiest way to tell it, yeah. I was in the room. Okay, so back up a little bit. So my son we were camping with friends, and I had a friend whose son had epilepsy, and he had fallen and hit his head. So I had taken my friend and her son to the hospital here in our small town, and the rest of the family and the families had stayed out at our campsite. And so I was at the hospital, and we were at the hospital when we heard that there was a child coming in that had been run over. And as soon as I heard that, they didn't even tell us it was a child. They said that there was somebody coming in and that the doctor would have to wait to see us to put stitches in my friend's son's head. And as soon as they said they were bringing somebody in, I knew it was my son. And I don't know how I knew. Well, I know now how I knew, right, given the information. And I just sat down and I said, it's Travis. And my girlfriend says, well, we don't even know if it's a kid. We don't know what's happening. I said, yeah. I just know. Anyway, fast forward, it was him. They did come in and they worked on him. And I was taken into the room when the doctor came out and told us that he didn't make it, that he had passed. I went into the room and I'll never forget it. And I feel like I say this story over and over so much because it's such an incredible story that I don't know how else to say it, but exactly how it is. So some of you may have heard this before, but I was in the room and my family was in there. My mother and father-in-law, my husband was in the room. My mom was in the room. And I remember losing my mind. Of course, my son is laying on the table with tubes in his mouth. And I just remember everybody's crying and everybody's upset and I'm upset and I'm feeling panic well up in me. And I'm thinking, I want everybody to get out of this room. I want to clean up my son. I want to wash his body. I want to change his clothes. And I want to take this, tube out of his mouth. And I'm losing it. And all of a sudden this amazing calm came over me. And at first I was like confused because I just felt a calm sort of rush through my body. And then I looked over at Travis and I saw his spirit actually lift from his body. And as it lifted out and it was just like vibration, energy. Right. Lifted and it lifted and sort of went to the corner of the room and I'm watching it go up. And as it hits the corner of the room, it just sort of sits there for a moment. And I felt him say, goodbye, Mom, or see you later, Mama. I just had this experience of him saying goodbye. And I knew it was his soul. And then it just dissipated. And I just sat in the chair in the room and was just super, super calm. After that, everything just kind of flowed. Yes, I cried every day and everything, but I went through his funeral. I smiled through the funeral because I saw angels there. Like it was just such a calming effect. And I know I was given a gift.
Absolutely.
I wish everybody that has lost somebody could experience what I felt at that moment. Because for me, and especially at the work that I do, it takes everything away, any doubt away that I have. So it's really, really easy for me to stand up and say, I know that there is life after death. I know that our bodies continue. I know that our spirit moves to a different, transitions and moves to a different level. And then still can communicate with us, because in that, and it probably was like not even 10 seconds. I don't know, I was just given that gift. So there's no doubt in my mind. So it's easy for me to talk to people without doubt, without any reservation.
Right. It's that it comes down to that saying, when like nothing can change your mind, right? It's just this deep, deep knowing inside of you for what you witnessed personally through with this experience with Travis. And I mean, I'm so moved by it every time I hear your story. I'm so moved. I mean, your book that you wrote as well about a blue angel. What I think is so beautiful in there is that you actually utilized your connection to Travis, where you did a question and answer with him. You would ask him questions and he would give you his perspective from the other side. Tell us about that, Diane.
It was really cool. The way that over time, once I started realizing that I was connecting with Travis and working with him, that I started to see the difference between Travis as a 6-year-old. I feel him in kind of 3 energies. There's times when I feel him as that 6-year-old he was, where he can kind of sit on my lap and I can feel his energy as that little boy that I remember. And then I have this connection to him where he stands behind me, where he is right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say where he happens to be right now.
Where he happens to be. He stands behind me when I'm doing workshops or when I'm working, and especially when I do readings for people who have lost children, he'll stand there. And he's always about that 30-year-old, like the age he would be now if he was living, sort of a young adult. And then I get an experience where I'm parking him, because he parks here, and then he's over here. And when he's over here, he's kind of like that advanced soul, that wise mentor. And I connect to him in that space. I know it's still him. I know it's his energy. I can feel his energy. He's the same, whether he's here, or here. But when he's out here as that mentor, he's so wise, and I can tune in and we can have conversations that are just, beyond anything that I can have physically with somebody. So at the end of the book, I sort of shared some of the conversations I've had with him.
Yes.
He's in that state, and it's different. His energy comes in a little bit different. I know it's still him, but he comes in as such a wise soul, almost like a teacher and a mentor. So it's really interesting when that happens. And I love when that happens. I usually go into meditation and I'll get into a space, or I can write. I know, Bonnie, you journaled a lot.
Yes.
First started.
Yes.
And journal a lot as well. I can't read half of it.
Exactly. There are sometimes where the penmanship, I can't even make sense of the words that I've written, but somehow I know what's being spoken.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got books and books of just journaling that is useless. Because nobody else would be able to read it because it's just sprawled out and long, and it's totally different than my writing. So you get into that state where I can really connect and get information, and that's such a powerful, valuable. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so beautiful, Diane. And again, that's what I am so intrigued by it. Even, here I am, I'm a medium and doing this work, all these years as well. And I'm still so in awe of the experiences that people like yourself have with their loved ones and how they utilize their connection, not only from day to day life, but also in support of the work that you're doing as well. So I think that's so beautiful and awesome. Now, again, I know we're a little bit kind of moving a little bit off the questions here, which I know you're okay with. But do you find as a medium? So you talked about, of course, the automatic writing. I do that often. I will often have a pen and a piece of paper in front of me as well, and I will be scribbling and drawing and writing words as I'm connecting with, even though I'm not really paying attention. It's just kind of a physical part of mediumship that takes place. Are you someone who doodles and draws and writes as you're connecting?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm.
I'm actually a painter, so I paint. I was always an artist. I was that kid that, would take a stick and draw in the dirt when we were on the farm when I was little, so I'm very artistic. I do a lot of paintings. I painted a picture of an angel just a couple months after Travis passed. And it's really, really interesting. It wasn't until many years later when somebody else pointed it out to me, but the picture is of a burgundy kind of picture angel in the snow, sort of peeking around a tree. And it wasn't until like literally 15 years later that somebody said, isn't that interesting? It looks like the angel, and there's a butterfly that the angel's sort of looking around the tree at the butterfly. And it's like, that's kind of like the angel looking at Travis, or around the tree. And I was like,
Oh.
gosh, I didn't even realize what I was painting, but I
Mm-hmm.
painted this. So yeah, art, doing all sorts of different things. I love different modalities. I love practicing with all kinds of things.
Yes.
Right now I'm just started practicing with throwing charms.
Oh, wow.
New. So I've been gathering little charms that I want to work with, and I made myself like a charm pad, and I've been practicing with that to get, I love physical things. I think we as humans love physical validations and things that, that's why angel cards and oracle cards and tarot cards are so great, because they're physical and there's something that you can go, wow.
Yeah, they're textile. And because we can hold them
Yes.
in our physical reality, it helps to open up that pathway to the other side. It becomes almost like the jumping off point. And we've got something very tangible in front of us that helps us to feel safe, but also in helping us to feel connected. And I love that. I think that's fun, Diane. Like, I really feel like this is something, wow, you're going to be teaching this eventually.
Oh yeah, that's
Right?
why I
Like,
want to get really
totally.
proficient. Yeah, really
Yeah,
proficient at it, and then I'll throw a workshop out there and do it, and we'll have
absolutely.
pick and choose. And yeah, and I think part of the reason that I like that so much, the different modalities, is that it really proves that everybody can connect and everybody can do their own thing if you just reach out and find your thing, find what you're interested in, and then
Right.
utilize that for spirit to work with you and show you how you can utilize it to get messages and to connect on a deeper level. There's no use trying to force yourself to be interested in something you're not interested in. So
Right.
take what empowers you. Take something, if you're a numbers person, use numbers, use numerology.
Right.
If you're somebody who loves gardening, use flowers and the scents, or the, tactile actual flowers, dry flowers, and use them, whatever. Whatever your interest is, I think it's really important to do that, because then that sets you apart from somebody else, because it's something you're already connected to, you're interested in,
Yeah.
and emotional about. So if you love it, utilize that and figure out how to use it to get signs, how to use it to connect with spirit, how to use it to make it your own. Nothing says we have to follow some other medium, we don't have
Right.
a guru. We can be
Right. We can be our own guru. That's exactly it. And
absolutely.
that's what I always tell people when in the training, I'm going to show you everything that I've come to learn, how I approach doing this work. And, it changes and it's so fluid. I'm not, I can't fit in a box. So I find even with what I teach in my program, there's times that, I shift it up and change it up based on what, where I'm finding my flow. But more importantly, any approach that we love is the pathway. That's what, I said even earlier in the meditation, it's what opens us up. It's the pathway. So anything that we're doing that we love to do is going to be the bridge to be able to make that connection to spirit. And I love that you brought up your artwork as well as painting. And I think that, when we look at mediumship, I always say we're just the medium that's being used to take something from the intangible and make it tangible. And when we're looking at expressing, we can express through our art and our creativity and our crafting. Again, those become an expression of something deeper inside of us that sits within that field and frequency of the spirit world, that field and frequency of that unconditional love that can be very healing, even even for people to have a piece of art hanging in their home that a medium may have painted, or even and again, I know a lot of people utilizing art and creativity as a way and means to process and work through their grief as well. It can be very healing when, again, working in partnership, in co-creation with the other side. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, there's so many ways. There's so many ways. When you were talking about always having a pen and paper, I remember always just getting inspired thoughts and writing it down. And I'd grab paper anywhere and write it down. Then I was trying to file it and put it in boxes. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. So I actually just got a big basket and just started firing them into the basket whenever I had it. And now I actually go and use the basket to get myself readings. So
wow.
I'll just sort of, the basket's there, it's all thoughts. So then if I need a reading, I'll be like, I need a message to do with, and I'll have a question, and I'll just rip through and pull out a piece of paper, and it'll be absolutely perfect for what I need to hear.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so there's so many ways, and I think just sort of look outside the box and don't try to fit ourselves into, that's why I call myself an energy interpreter rather than medium and everything. You know, I use those words medium and psychic because that's what people recognize.
Right. That's what they're familiar with. That's what they understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's just interpreting energy.
Yes.
So what a way to interpret energy. It can be anything.
That's what I always say to people. It's just, we're speaking energy. That's what we're doing. We're connecting with a field of energy. We're connecting with a form of energy, and we're using energy to translate it into words or translate it into art, right? So we just, we happen to know how to speak energy. That's really who we are as mediums. Energy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So what really led you to help others, Diane? Like what for you? I mean, obviously you had your own healing journey. And I mean, like I said, you really jumped in. Like, what was that decision-making piece for you? What led you to say, I really want to help people in this way?
I think the biggest thing is when Travis passed, and it was, 24 years ago. So we weren't having Zoom meetings like this.
Right.
There was very little out there as far as mediumship. There was very little out there to connect. And, there was a few books and very structured thinking, set books or, stuff from the spiritual colleges and stuff that were very structured. And just like the Bible, I found a lot of holes in those because I was like, okay, even though I believe in the context and the premise of this, there's so many things that don't make sense to me. At the time that Travis died, John Edwards' show, half-hour program Crossing Over was on. And every day at 5:30, 5 to 5:30 was and that became sort of my church because it was a connection. I was watching this man connect and I was like, this is so cool. And I remember how much comfort it gave me to listen to other people's stories and him connect for people. So when I started doing this work, it was really easy for me to do readings for other people because I thought, how dare I have this ability? And it was pretty pronounced at that time. How do I have this ability and not help people in their grief? Like it seemed like I couldn't not do it because I was searching after I lost Travis. I was searching. I was a mom 30 years old, and I was searching. I was looking at books. I was looking at TV. I was anything to give me connection and comfort and just to listen to other people's stories that were similar. So that when I started doing it, I thought, well, now I can do this for somebody else. I can be that person that can speak the language of it for them or help them in any way. So that's really why I do it. And that's what really feeds me.
Yeah, I see. And that just resonates so much with me too, Diane, because it's like, how can I hold back? Because there's so much healing that can happen as a result of me doing this, of, in how I know how much, of course, it's helped me to heal through many losses in my life, as what you shared too. And so it really feels like almost selfish to me that I'm not doing this work on some level, because I feel, and selfish in, I mean, we have to be in terms of self-care and things like that, but it's in maybe, stopping myself from showing up in the world, or and helping and supporting people through their healing, through their grief. It's such an important piece of it. I just, as you were saying that too, as you were watching, John Edwards, I remember being home with my kids and folding laundry and watching Sylvia Browne on Montel Williams' show at that time. And I was so intrigued with what she was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at how that woman is changing people's lives in an instant. Like, she just, in an instant, there was a whole change taking place. And I was like, wow, is that ever a phenomenal purpose? Even, as a medium, and having these connections with the spirit world, I never even at that time anticipated I would be working professionally like this either. It was the readiness, right, within my own self. But I think it's so funny that you talk about John Edwards. I was like, yeah, I remember watching Sylvia Browne, the exact same thing.
I have a funny story about John Edwards. He's actually read for me 2 or 3 times. I've gone to see him, and
Yes.
he read for me. And I remember one time winning a reading with him. It was just random. And I can't even remember, I can't even remember putting my name in, but I won this reading.
Mhm.
And it happened to be early in the morning, and he phones me up and he's like, so I have a young boy here. His name is your young son. He didn't say his name. He said, I have a young boy here. And I said, oh yeah, that's my son, Travis. He's like, what? Like, he's like, oh yeah, he comes through all the time. And he was just kind of like, oh, I said, yeah, I work with him all the time. So I just sort of stumped him, and I God bless him, but I sort of stumped him because I was just like, I took it so, I don't know, at that time I had been connecting to him so much that it was like, okay, yeah, get on with it. What does he have to say?
Right. You weren't amazed in that moment, right? Where he was expecting you to be totally in
Poor
awe,
guy,
and some
poor
grief
guy.
coming up or something, right?
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, cool. Let's have a chat, Yeah, it was too funny.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I want to make sure we're really honoring our time here tonight,
Yeah.
of course, as well, Diane. But I would just love for you to, because of, again, dealing so deeply through your own grief and your grieving process and everything, what advice do you have for those who are attending this event, who are looking, who are working through their grief, who are looking to find some sort of reassurance of their loved one's presence in their life?
I think, well, I believe grief is the space that exists between that total feeling of love you have for a person and that total feeling of loss, right? It's that space in between. And I know I love my sons. I have 3 sons, and Travis was the middle son. But it wasn't until the moment that I lost him that I realized how much I truly loved him. Because it's not until you're in that space in between love and loss that I think you really get a feel, the amount of pain that I felt in the loss of him showed me how much love I had for him. So I think it's recognizing that to begin with, that you're in that space between that moment, and it can be suspended for quite some time for some people, that space between. And I think over time, that space gradually gets bigger and bigger, so that the loss and you can differentiate between the loss that you have for the person and the love that you continue to have for them. And as that space sort of opens up a little bit, you tend to take a breath, and you tend to be able to sort of see things from a different perspective. So I think it's really important to be aware of where you are and to recognize that space that you're in, and be okay with where you are, and know that it is going to get better over time. There are some people that stay suspended in that space for quite some time. I've done readings for people that won't get out of bed. They just sort of, there's, especially with children, I find, but not always, get into that place where they just don't want to live without that child. And that space is held in suspense for them. I find that really sad.
Yeah.
And that is me thinking, our loved ones will always support us where we are from the other side. They will always come and sit with us. They will always support us where we are, but they would much rather come to a party. They would much rather be with you when you're having a good time. They will sit down and hold your hand when you're crying, but they'd rather dance with you when you're laughing. So I think it's just, you know, giving people the tools to recognize where they are, and then give yourself permission to live your life. Even though they've chosen not to remain living. And you know me, I know that they make a choice to go. We all do.
Yes.
A moment, we make a choice, whether it's sudden death or it's a long illness, whatever.
Yeah.
Age or whatever, I believe we choose when we leave this earth and make our transition. So it's their choice when they leave. So we have to respect that as humans. And I know myself, not that I haven't had times that I've thought, okay, if I was a better parent, maybe my son would have stuck around longer, or he wouldn't have chosen, because I can't have it both ways, right? I can't believe that he chose to leave and then not feel a little guilty about it. Maybe if his life was easier, maybe if I had been a better mom, you know, those things sort of come through my mind. But then I sort of have to stop and go, he made his choice. It's his journey. It was his choice to go at that time. And I think when you're grieving, you can get caught up in all those kinds of feelings and not let yourself. We become very selfish, very self-centered. Our own emotions, our own feelings become the most important thing. And I think at the time we have to recognize that their journey is just as important, and they made choices. They made the choice to leave this world when they did because of their journey.
Well, and I thank you for bringing that up into the thank you so much for that wisdom, Diane. You know, when we look at, we do have several, I talked the other night, you know, we do have a predestined, you know, when we're born, and then we do have a predestined expiry date, so to speak, but we have many death opportunities, you know, even, so the thing is, no one ever dies too soon, not according to the journey of that spirit or that soul. And so we have many death opportunities, and we have free will in, you know, in our lives now. We have free will at the time of our death as well. So when these death doorways open for us, so it's not just cut and dry, like this is the official stamped date. Yes, that date does exist, because obviously that's a part of the soul's journey that's been predestined. But those death opportunities, those doorways that present themselves up until that final date, allow for the spirit to have a choice. And I love how you say we look at, you know, look at really honoring the choice that they made, that there was a death opportunity, and the choice they spoke and said, you know, from their place inside themselves.
I think you have to recognize too that even if they had a wonderful life, at the point, especially in a sudden accident, or they've gone to, you know, or an illness where their body they're tired, they're exhausted, all those things. Think about it this way. If you stood in front of this beautiful source energy light, and as you're in that space, just before, as you're at the point of choosing whether to stay or go, it's pretty easy to make the choice to go when source energy, God, creator, this beautiful light is right there saying, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. You're going to have no pain. You're going to have any trauma. You're going to, you're so connected at that point to source energy that the decision really isn't difficult for them, I don't think.
Great.
It just seems like the natural progression, and they know they're connected enough with the light at that time. They're connected enough with source energy at that time that it's pretty easy to make the decision that, okay, yeah, I'll just step right over there and I'm good again. And I have, you know, free will to do that.
Right. So, again, the free will to do it. That's exactly it. Oh my gosh. So great. Thank you, Diane. I'm going to turn over now to the chat. If you have some questions here for Diane and myself, Diane's going to be sticking around here for the entire part of the Q&A. So anything that you have to share, of course, oh my gosh, so many hellos and so much love coming in. Oh my gosh, so much.
Where's the
All right,
Zoom?
here we
Wait.
Oh, hang on. So I have a question coming in here from Helen. Helen said, last night after our time together, it was noisy, busy night of visitors. How does one quiet the house to be able to hear clearly? Being noise sensitive, it's always been difficult to receive clear messages. Also, how does one set up the boundaries so that's because sleep is important to her. And when she's trying to fall asleep, the chatter can become very disruptive.
For me, that's
I'm just going to interrupt here. I have somebody with their microphone unmuted. So if it happens to be you, I'm just going to look through at my participant list here. I'm going to have to unmute or mute you. Diane, if you can just go ahead and answer the question, and I'll find this. Here we go.
For me, it's a simple thing, clearing and having control. I'm a firm believer in having control over your own energy. I'm a firm believer in controlling what you allow in and what you don't allow, putting those boundaries up. And it's just as much as, I don't know, this is something that I struggle with all the time. People come to me all the time asking me, how do I control it? How do I control it? And I'm like, I don't know, because I've always just controlled it. I don't know. I don't know the process except to say, well, tell them to leave. You know, like for me, it's simple. It's like if somebody's bothering you or you know, you're tuning into a frequency, change the frequency, because everything is energy and vibration. I think Marilyn's on.
Is it? Yeah, I'm trying to find in the list of people. We have so many people on here. Is it Marilyn? Marilyn, yeah. If you could please mute your microphone, that would be wonderful. Thank you, please. I'm looking here in the participant list.
Energy, we're about all vibrations. So if you're in a space where you're kind of tuned in and picking up on energy, if it's noisy, if there's things coming in at you, then change your vibration so you don't pick up on it. Mm-hmm. You know, think about it. Look at cell phones. How many cell phones are there in the world? And everybody's on them. Everybody's connecting. So everybody's got all these frequencies going all over the world. If you could look at all the frequencies all over the world, imagine if you were tuning into every frequency. We don't. Why don't we? They come by us, they come through us, they come around us all the time. But it's only if you tune into a certain frequency that you're going to pick up on it. So if something is bothering you, if something's in your space, if something's grabbing your attention, change your frequency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, how and so when you say change, how would you suggest she does that if she's not familiar with that? By simply just saying change.
Well, how do you change your frequency? Turn on some music, get up and move, have a drink of water, do anything to change the space you're in, right?
Right.
It can be dancing, it can be doing something, a ritual. That's why, you know, saging a place or doing things. Those are all rituals, but they're all things that just change the frequency, change the energy of what's happening in the space. So imagine that we're all like radio station, and if you're tuning into country and it's really bugging you, turn it to rock.
Right.
Just change something.
Yeah, just change something in your environment, right? Yeah, and I think
it's more difficult than it needs to be.
We absolutely do. And as I said, you know, even as I, you know, kind of was, you know, saying, looking for a step or something she could do, I think, you know, as I even said that, you know, this is simply of just even saying to your own self and to you know, being aware that the energies are disruptive. So you can say to yourself, shift my vibration. You can, and in saying that to yourself, you're asking for your guides, your spiritual team. You're asking for even the spirit world to begin to help to alter the energy around you, especially if it becomes too overwhelming. So simply just saying, shift my vibe is a great way to be able to change that frequency. I always, you know, that's one of the things I teach in my programs with people. It's just saying, you know, you're having difficulty connecting with the spirit world. Just simply say, shift my vibe. And you're saying it to yourself, but it's enough to do a shift of energy to allow there to be a stronger connection. Now, as far as boundaries are, you know, really easy, Helen, and boundaries can be, hey, this needs to stop. We can voice it or verbalize it in the moment. Again, you know, I recommend sitting down and writing out, you know, a few things that you are okay with experiencing and a few things that you don't want to experience, because just an understanding that everything is about balance in the universe. And so if we're asking for something if we're asking for something that we want to receive from the spirit world, we also have to be willing to give something or make some allowance here as well. So sitting down to kind of figure out and just write it out, write it down on a piece of paper, put it down on your kitchen table. Spirit doesn't have any, they don't have a vocal cords anymore. They can't communicate, but they can still read, and they'll start to see, what's acceptable or not acceptable in terms of that nightly activity. Okay. Yeah. So great. So great. Awesome. All right. So we have a question from Christina. Christina said, I would love to hear a story about something that Diane learned about the other side in her communications with her son.
Oh boy.
I'm like, hang on. Do I have the book? Is it handy?
I have the book. I have the book right here. I do have the book. You'd have to get it. I can. Let me see. Okay. Do you want me to read just a small bit here?
Please. Yes, please do, Diane.
Okay. So, there's so much here. Okay, I'll just start in the middle of this conversation. There's quite a big conversation, but it's here. So I asked him, okay, so what about mediumship? Why has it changed for me? This is his answer. Because you have changed. You are connecting with source. You are always connected with source. There is no stopping it. It must continue. It must move forward. It must. It is law. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Nothing. It's why we are here. It's why you are here, to move, to expand, to engage, and to observe. And in the observation comes the experience of all.
I can just feel like I have goosebumps from head to toe just as you read that, right? It's just so profound.
He was 6 when he died. So that's what I mean about him being that mentor, right?
Yes.
I know communicating with him, I can feel his energy, but that's how he speaks in that form. So yeah,
I love it.
Laughing because as I'm reading it, I'm saying I'm having a conversation in my head, and as I'm reading it, I'm noticing that even then I use source because source to me, that was in my frame of reference, and that's the word that he used for me because he knew that it was something that I would relate to. I interchange it with God, creator, different things, but source is kind of, and I didn't even realize that I used that long ago. So
all those years ago, seriously, right?
I haven't read the book in a while.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. Thank you for taking time to read that, Diane. Amanda,
and not only, I guess the other thing that he taught me is this book. I literally started this book on a Friday night at 7:00, and I was done on Sunday night.
Yeah, that blows me away.
Because and then I had to and I sent it out to an editor, the whole bit, and they didn't change a thing. It was absolutely the way it was supposed to be. It was just like, and at the time I didn't even realize I was channeling. It's my own story, so it was easy. But as afterwards, my husband's not a big reader, so I read the story to him while we were on a trip one time, and I'm reading the book, and I'm in my brain, I'm like, oh, remember that? And I had wrote it, but I forgot that we had even had that experience. So, wow. In channeling the book that it was great to be able to read it afterwards and go, oh.
Absolutely, right? Because I imagine just like everyone, I mean, memories come and go. And so as you can read through, you've got a beautiful story that even helps you to hold the memory. Yeah, be so beautiful. Amanda's asking you, Diane, did you ever feel your son was distant or not visiting or showing any signs as much? And what did you do to stay centered to have a stronger connection with him?
Okay, so this is something that I learned over time connecting with him. They're never gone and they are never disconnected from us. We pinch ourselves off from them. So as I say, when we shift our energy, they're never away from us. They're always available to us. They're always around us. So if we're feeling, and I go through periods where I've got a lower vibration, things just, I'm busy in my life, I'm, and I feel like I don't have a connection to Travis. But over time, I recognize it's not because he's not there, and it's not because he's not connecting with me, it's that I'm not recognizing and feeling the connection. It's on me.
Mhm.
Physical part of me, it's the humanness in me that is stopping that connection because of because of what's going on in my life. So
Right.
it's not that they're ever disassociated with us, it's that we're pinching them off. We're, for whatever reason in our life, are finding it difficult to connect with them.
Mhm. I love that. I love that you bring that up because that's a big piece of it. Their love is, our love for them and their love for us are what keep us connected always. Once they go through their rest phase initially after they cross, and again, some individuals that happens really, really quick, and especially in children, they don't stay in their sleeping state or their rest phase for very long after. I find that their children especially are kind of in and out where there are, depending on the circumstances for someone's life experience, they do go through their own spiritual healing on the other side. There is a period where they are maybe even of a lower energy or of a lower vibration where we still can't even reach them because of what they're going through on the other side. But the love keeps us connected. The love is always there. And again, constantly talking to them, calling on them. And again, as Diane said, always looking at how am I pinching myself off from source? Because if we're pinching ourselves off from source, we're pinching ourselves off from the spirit world.
Yeah. And that's where you and I kind of, we've always disagreed a little bit because
Absolutely. And
I
again,
really,
this is again, based on the experiences we've both had with the spirit world, because this is what I'm being given and told by the spirit world or from, what's happening and what's at play. And you've had different experiences with it. There's no right or wrong here. It's just, we have two different understandings based on what we're here to teach. And again, all in part of what we understand within the depths of what is truth for us.
Yeah. I feel like that space where you say it's sleeping and everything is sort of like the energy doesn't die. It will
Right.
always continue on. Our thoughts will always continue on. So I feel like when you're connecting to that sleeping space, it's kind of like the physical thought or the physical energy from the thought that was created and the life that was created. That energy continues on. So you can tune into that and see that play out. And to me, that's where we get that sort of, they're going through a sleep state or they're trying to figure out, because that thought pattern, that energy of their life continues on in that level. But I believe that when our spirit and our bodies separate, you immediately go to source energy. So you go back to source. So there is no space in between. I feel like you're here, you pinch, you go back to source. But the energy,
I think I'm getting right now too. It really depends. I would say a lot of that too can be,
continue on.
I appreciate, thank you so much. And I think I know I'm just kind of being told it is within the experience of the soul as well. So this is something where we can say there's no right or wrong here, because depending on what the soul's experience is and the soul is choosing to have as their after death experience, again, is of their free will as well. So there can be many different variables within
Yes.
that, right? So yeah, truly it's, and again, it's not linear. And I think every time we think we understand, we truly don't understand. We only know a little bit of what's really happening.
And won't it be exciting when we get there and get it all
right?
figured?
Exactly.
That's what I tell people that, and I've only had a couple people in all the years that I've done this, I've been very fortunate. I've only had a couple people say to me, oh, I don't believe in what you do. And I just tell them, okay, we'll have that discussion when we're both dead.
Right. I love that. That's a great comeback. Oh my gosh, that's such a great comeback.
I'll meet you there. We'll have coffee. We'll discuss it then. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the number of times where I've done readings for individuals when I've connected with their loved one. Their loved one has said, "I would have been the last person to think this was ever possible." Like they're like, "I get it now. Now that they're no longer physical, they understand."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. So I have a question here from Lynn. Lynn says, my mom died after giving birth to us twins. They used AED X's 3. She said, I've got to go back to look after my babies. She saw the light and spoke to someone. So have you had experiences like this, or other people saying they have had experiences like this?
I have done readings for people that have come in and have had near-death experiences or had things where they've been to that point of that decision. Do I stay or do I go? I always hear in the song, do I stay or do I go?
Right.
And that's one of my signs when I'm doing a reading and that comes up, I'm like, oh, somebody's had an experience here. So I have done readings where people have been to that point. Do I stay or do I go? And like I said, it's a decision that they make at that time because of free will. Do they go? And I think the closer they are to source, the easier it is for them to go, especially if they've been tired, if they've been ill, or if they know that family's taken care of. Think about it. It'd be an easy, if you're 90 years old, you're sick, you're laying in hospice, and you know your family's all taken care of, it'd be a pretty easy decision to go, yeah, I'm out of here. Right? No, I'm gone. And pretty easy decision, even though you know that grief is going to happen, it'd be an easy decision to go. It may be a little bit more difficult when it's, you know, when you're young and you have children. That might be the deciding factor for you. You know, you're connected to those twins, you're connected to those children, and you're going, yeah, I'm not ready to cut out. I want to be back there. I know the light's beautiful. I think this is going to be great, but I think I still have value in staying here and feeling the contrast and living in the physical for a while.
So beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, I've had 3 near-death experiences in my life. I had one when I was a child. I had one during the birthing of my second daughter. And then I had one a little bit later in life when my children were, you know, they were kind of in their I wouldn't say early adolescent. They're just kind of coming into that place. And the one with it as a child was probably my very first time that I had the most profound connection with the angelic realm. And that was, you know, having what I thought was a sea monster at the time save my life, actually turned out to be a divine being. But the two, when we talk about the choice that's being given, you know, there's 2 scenarios here. The one where I was where I had given birth to my daughter, I remember meeting and talking to a counselor, to a group, and it wasn't like I have any memory of actually like seeing physical beings there. It was just a deep knowing of conversation and exchange, really, of energy that was taking place, right? And so I was given a choice then. I was told that I had completed everything I had set out to complete at that time. I was shown my husband, who was attending to my daughter as a newborn, in the other room. And I was given a choice to stay or to go. Just as you said, I love that song. It just makes me go, yeah, do I stay or do I go?
You're never going to get rid of it now.
Right, exactly. But it was this conversation I remember having, and I remember looking down at my daughter, and I remember looking at my husband, and I just said, you know what? No, I'm going to go back because I can't leave him. I just know it's going to be too hard on them for me to go at this time. So I went back. I remember very clearly having the choice. With the third one, though, however, it was really a difference. And so this is where sometimes, again, when I say there's high levels of agreements and things that take place where sometimes what is that choice is almost decided for us. And I can't explain it in any other way, but I remember, you know, meeting a woman when I got into this room. It was like this big conference room. And I remember her coming up and saying, oh, okay, you're Bonnie Worth. And I said, yes, I am. She said, oh, come with me. And I remember then almost being moved. And suddenly I was being told, you need to go back and keep doing what you're doing. And I said, oh, I need to go back and keep doing what I'm doing. They're like, yes, you need to go back and keep doing what you're doing. So I was not given a choice at that time. So I remember it so clearly coming back down. This is really where I would say for me, this whole understanding of crossing over really kind of solidified in some of the things that play out. Because I remember coming down or walking down almost a hallway or a staircase and the light being behind me. And I just kept repeating, I'm going to go back and keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go back and keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go back and keep doing what I'm doing. It was just this, it was the simplest phrase of words, but it's what I was given from that time. And as I was coming back, I was meeting individuals that were walking towards the light. And I remember very distinctly seeing their images, seeing, seeing the outline. There was one, I mean, there was four that were very distinct, but one was like somebody who had been killed in a motorcycle accident, and it was a young guy, and he was carrying his motorcycle helmet with him. And I remember saying hello to all of them. Like, I was like, oh, hello, oh, hello, oh, hello, as I'm passing. And then coming back out of that, in the days and weeks to follow, I was really just so overwhelmed by what I had seen as I was coming back. And I sat down and did some research, and I was able to pinpoint different accidents and different things that had played out where there were a loss of life. And I had actually met those individuals as they were crossing over. So so here again, yes, we have these death doorways where we do have opportunity to go. And then there's other times where that decision is made for us. It's like that's where there's those times where the decision of death is made for us. It's a high level of agreements. And so that's, I just wanted to share that because I think it's a big, piece of this in terms of the, yes, we see the light, that you do indeed talk to individuals. That is very true. Yeah. So great. Helen is asking another question here, Diane. Is that why some say to wait some time before you try connecting? So she's going back to, we had talked to her question earlier with all of the noise that was going on, and again, feeling pinched off from her loved one. And so is this why people recommend waiting?
This is another area where I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that there's value in connecting right away. I've literally sat at funerals and had people, the dead come to me during their funeral, watch a grandfather sit up. I laugh every time I tell the story, but yeah. I went to a funeral and it was a senior, he was a grandfather, he loved his grandchildren. And I'm sitting in the funeral and everybody's very sad. This was a beloved man. He wasn't 80 or 90, he was in his 70s. So, he had had a heart attack. And I'm watching at the front, and there's a throne. I call it a throne. It's this, red velvet chair in this church, and it's up at the front. And when I walked in, he's sitting in the chair. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to see him through this. Great. And there was a group of ladies singing, and when they started singing, and he was an avid musician, and this was an older group of ladies that worked for, sang for the church, and he's like, oh, and because he did not like what they were singing, and they were a little off key, and I had to hold myself from bursting out laughing during his funeral, because he's like cringing at them singing. And then there was one part where when he's running around, kissing the tops of his grandchildren's heads. And I was like, it was so endearing. And then when they were leaving, he's riding on the top of his coffin as it's, going out of the church. So yeah, connecting all this time. And I'm like, there was no reason for me not to connect to him at that point. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, and of course, if it's available, if you're available to connect, then it's not a bad thing. Even when Travis died, some of the greatest connection I had was in the days right then. I had nothing else on my mind. I was so hyper focused on my own emotion. I always say I had the best connection to God ever in those moments right after Travis died. Yeah. Because I didn't have clutter. I didn't have human emotion. I didn't care what I ate, what I looked like, what my house looked like. That was all gone. So in those moments, you have such a clear connection to source because you are so hyper focused, singular on what you are feeling. Why waste that? If you can connect at that moment, connect at that moment.
Absolutely. I think personally, exactly. I think that's the thing. And I want to clarify here. It's not that we disagree. I think there's a difference here. I connect with spirit immediately. And I've had the same experiences at,
I didn't mean services. I know a lot of people.
Right. Where they don't believe they can connect. I always look at, so yeah, I've done lots of readings for families and friends, close to mine, because there is such healing available within the first part of those goodbyes. And I've, worked with loved ones to be able to help in making funeral arrangements arrangements and making decisions that aren't necessarily easy for someone to make when they're still in the shock and moving through that phase. For me, where I say I personally don't do any readings until after 3 months. And so after 3 months, just as Diane says, that space that's there can be very narrow. Whereas when there's some space in the energy, it becomes so much easier for spirit to be able to flow. They've had, they've gone through their transformation and have assimilated with the frequencies of the spirit world. They're in a higher vibration. After death, they can be in a lower vibration. So that 3 months gives them time to go into a higher vibrational field, which makes it easier to connect. But then also in terms of looking at this as being in for the depth of healing, it's like, as professionally, I just wait so that when people are coming to me, that they're open to receiving and hearing the messages. It's so difficult when we're in the first few weeks following the loss. And, when we sit down as the medium, we're getting a message that says, I'm fine, I'm doing well, I'm really happy. And just, it was my time. I decided to go. I just wanted to go. That's a really hard message to deliver to someone when they're still in shock. And so,
well, exactly. And that's
right.
like the biggest thing. It's not that we can't connect and it's not that we shouldn't. It's just that we have to be very mindful and respect
Yes.
where the person is at that point. Because, you and I both know we have a different idea of death because we do this so often.
Right.
We get excited. I get excited when people pass if they've been in trauma. When Dr. Wayne Dyer, everybody knows Dr. Wayne Dyer, when he passed, I was like, oh, yay. I was so excited for him. I was like, but do you think I'm going to tell his children that? And
no,
even
right.
open, they probably would have been okay. I would have not done that, like to have respect for where their space is too.
Absolutely.
I think that counts. I've had people walk in and people book. I had somebody book 3 months in advance for a reading and walk in days after they lost somebody. I know you've waited 3 months and you're going through trauma, but can you leave? I'm not ready to do a reading.
Right. No, exactly. And again, we have to trust that was divinely orchestrated too. Like there's something bigger than us that is guiding all of this, right?
Yeah.
So that was very specific.
Part of doing this work is knowing what to say and how to say it and how to articulate it and being very and respectful of where the person is, because I'm not going to at that point tell them everything I know. Oh, they're having a great time. They don't miss you at all. They're celebrating with family. They're having, that's cruel. That would be
Absolutely. I think it's cruel. I agree.
So
I think, Helen, where this comes down to, Helen, I think that, this is a decision. If you're wanting to connect with your loved one, if you're seeking that because it's something that you feel you need in being able to reconcile and move through this loss, you do it according to your time. So there, whether someone believes you should wait or whether they say, oh, not yet, just give it some, no, you do this according to what you want for yourself. No one has, this is where you have sovereignty over yourself, over your life, and over this decision. So I really encourage you, if this is something that you are looking to do, and this is something you are craving and need in support of your healing journey, then absolutely, you go right ahead and do it. Yeah.
Different mediums will have different ideas because they
right.
give the messages differently. There's some mediums that feel like if I get it, I have to say it. And not one of those. I'm one of those that go, okay, if I say that the way that you're telling me to say it, I know this is going to go badly, right? Or I'm not comfortable saying that, even though you want me to say it, I don't feel like this is good. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to say it. I've had that conversation where I'm sort of talking and arguing with spirit going, no, give it to me in a different way. If you want me to tell that, you better give it to me in a way that's going to make me comfortable saying it. So I think as a medium, you have to, and there's some people that are different. Some people, if I get it, I'm saying it. So you might not want to go to them within that first month after somebody passed, because they say things that trigger trauma for you.
Right. And again, it's like my intention is I always want to leave people feeling better after they've spent time with me. I don't want to add to the trauma for them. Right. So yeah, that's such sage advice. Val is asking, Val says, we've talked about sudden death and prolonged death from disease. Can we talk about death from suicide? I have an understanding around it. However, I would like to hear your understanding in regard to the topic. I'm not really sure what my question is, only that I feel it needs to be talked about. And so I wanted to open up this topic. What's really beautiful is Val opening up her question, brought Faith's question in here too, that coincides with it, where Faith is saying her brother recently took his life. And so she's looking, how do we open up dialogue? So this is a very, suicide is on the rise. Of course, we've seen so much, taking place through mental health over these last few years. And so suicide is something that not only are there a lot of initiatives in helping helping those who are suffering mentally, but for those that do end up taking their life, Diane. So I think I really appreciate this being brought forward into the conversation. And before we begin in that, Faith, I just want to extend love and deepest condolences for you and your family for this. I know that it's definitely a very hard and difficult journey.
I think as society, we've made suicide such a taboo topic where, like I said before, I believe we all commit suicide because I believe that we all choose
our death experience. Yes.
So to me, every single person that has passed essentially commits suicide because every single person that passes decides when they go. My son at 6 years old was ran over, but there was a point when he decided, do I stay or do I go? And he decided to go. So did he commit suicide? Yeah, he chose to go. He decided when he went. So I want to take the taboo out of that right now about suicide. I think there are people that are in such trauma at that point. Yeah. My son, it was a physical trauma because he had been run over. He was in pain. His body was in trauma. So like I said, at that point, it was pretty easy for him to go, do I stay here and suffer and live this life that I'm living? Or I'm right here and there's peace and calm and beauty and light and pain-free right there at my hands. Pretty easy for him to say, yeah, I'm out of here, right? And that's with anybody. If somebody has enough trauma or emotional pain or hurt or even confusion from anything in their life, that they're to the point where they have a decision, do I stay or do I go? At that point, you have to honor the journey that they choose, because at that point, that's the only decision they had. Do I stay or do I go? And we all do it. We all, and yes, there's so many ways that we can say, I wish I had have stepped in. I wish I had been able to give this person comfort. I wish I had been able to stop this accident from happening. I wish that I had done something more. But like I said, at the end of the day, their decision came down to that moment. When do I stay or do I go? And do I go was all love and light and peace and lack of trauma, that it was an easy decision for them. And it had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with those that are left behind. Hard pill to swallow. You know, even with my son's accident, it's hard pill for me to swallow that he chose to leave me, but it had nothing to do with me at the end of the day. It had everything to do with the fact that that decision was all about peace and love for him. And he's that close to source and making that decision. They're close enough to know that we're okay, that they're not leaving us. They're close to source to realize that they continue on and they don't miss anything, that they get to still be involved in our lives. They didn't go anywhere. They just shifted and transitioned their physical body. They let their physical body go, but their energy continues on. So at that point, when they're that close to source, they recognize that. They recognize that they're not missing anything. They recognize that they're not going anywhere. They're right here.
Right. Thank you, Diane, for sharing that. And again, this is where looking, and I know we might have spoke on it already in some of the conversations we've had here so far this week. When we look at it, understanding from a higher spiritual perspective of things, is that every single individual that on a very even unknowing level, we choose our death experience. So there are some at the soul level where, the choice to have a terminal illness and to die from a terminal illness is something that soul is looking to experience. And suicide is no different, where the soul is making the decision. So even though there is the choice that the individual is making in ending their life or ending the suffering of their life, every death experience, is a part of a part of something to be gleaned in wisdom from experience at the soul level. So there's no matter what the death experience is. And again, as I shared, whether it's, suicide, whether it's been an accident, a heart attack, if somebody's been murdered, as much as maybe we can't understand it from our own human scope of things, but from a larger or vaster understanding is that it was the exact experience that soul was looking to have. And in the experience that there would also be some wisdom and some learning for the people as a result of the way that they died. So we can look at suicide as the example here, that there is some learning, and some learning can be the preciousness of life, the importance of mental health, that they were in some way, made the decision and choice to be someone to help wake people up to the importance of the mental, the emotional, the physical and spiritual well-being of every individual on this planet. So there can be many, like the ripple effect. So it's not just a decision that they're making in terms of their own soul's experience on their exit. It's also the ripple effect that has to actually kind of cause or help to awaken someone into a deeper understanding. So a deeper understanding and gleaning some lessons and having to make some changes. And sometimes death can happen where maybe everyone was not really focused on who or what really mattered in life. And so a death is the easiest reset that we get to begin to look and in terms of what matters, who matters, how have I been living my life? And these individuals, part of their exit plan is to help us to wake that up inside of us. So it really is not only in service to the soul, but it's in service to those who have left behind. When we're looking at any kind of death, as I said, earlier on the conversations as well, when that death was successful, regardless of it was in the death opportunity that was there. The individual chose it, or it was their final death date. It was like, here, I've come in on a certain date. I'm meant to go out on a certain date. And so it all was orchestrated from those high levels of agreement, that when that death has been successful, which means when the person has died, regardless how they've died, it was set, or we could say it was their time. And that's one of the hardest things for us to comprehend and understand. And I know I received several emails from listeners where they was just like, wow, like that really kind of hit them. They never considered, that as understanding before. And so when we look at, suicide, like any other death experience, it truly is. For your question, Faith, coming into, how do you begin to open up dialogue with him? Well, that really becomes just, speaking from your heart and just really saying, I just love for you to begin to show me some signs. And that's an important part of the equation. We need to create the opening or the invitation for them. But the other key factor in here is also to be able to offer or extend some forgiveness to him for his decision in going. Sometimes we harbor deep feelings, and even though we're grieving, and even though we know we never want to speak ill of the dead, that's something we as humans, like sometimes, like there were, we have to give ourselves permission to be honest about how we feel. And so if you have any kind of, you're harboring anything, whether consciously or unconsciously, if you're angry at him for going, and that's a natural part of grieving, we get angry about this stuff. Even just being able to extend and say, just out there and from here, just saying, I understand. I forgive you. And I really would love to start connecting you and receiving signs, receiving signs. What you can also do is incubate a dream. Spirit visits us very easily in our dream state because our ego goes to sleep. So incubating a dream means that on a piece of paper, you write out that we're an invitation where you would like him to come and visit with you in your dreams while you're sleeping. And so what you do is you write this down, you say it before you go to bed, and keep it on your bedside. You can stick it under your pillow. And every night before you go to sleep, speak that invitation out to him again. I invite you to come and visit me in my dreams, and that I have a dream where I'm going to remember our connection. You know, you want to make sure that you're asking to remember, and you're going to see that over a very short period of time, that invitation is going to allow him to begin to step into your dream state, into the dream state where your grief is set aside and you're able to have a moment in space and time with him. And it's from there that the rest of the signs will begin to show up for you as well. Diane, any advice there in terms of starting a dialogue?
And you need to trust that they are sending you signs all the time. I know with Travis, I play with them all the time. I ask for signs all the time because I am human. I love, even though I believe wholeheartedly, I still love seeing the tangible evidence. I love to have
Yes.
signs. So I play with them all the time. And, you know, we have certain things that he'll show me. And I test him. And it's not testing him so much as that I'm playing with him and I'm testing myself, and it's mostly on what I trust. A perfect example, a couple days ago, just before his birthday, I said, you know, buddy, I've been so busy. I haven't had any signs for a while. So, you know, I'm doing a meditation and I'm like, it'd be really great to get a sign from you, you know, something big that hits me right across the head so I don't miss it. It'd be really great. I'm having this conversation. I go to sleep, and I'm a person that I lay down and 8 hours later I wake up. Like I do not, and I rarely remember my dreams. I am at night, it's sleep time.
Yeah.
Night, I woke up at 2:22, 4:44, and 6:22. And I thought, okay, so as I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm like, okay, buddy, that was really, really cool. I have to admit that was pretty cool. But do you think you could do it when I'm awake so I don't have to, you know, and I'm having this conversation.
Right.
Well, I literally not 10 minutes later, I'm driving out my driveway and to go to work, and I pull up onto the main road, and a big mama moose walks right in front of my vehicle with the baby behind.
Wow.
The mama baby's there. Baby walks right up to my door and stands there for no less than a minute looking at me. And I'm in the vehicle going, all right, okay, mama and baby, there's a good sign. Thank you, buddy. You know,
Right.
but to trust, I could say, oh, that was just a coincidence. No, I was just laughing about it. I didn't even say, bring me something else. I said, do you think you could make it when I'm awake? Right.
Yeah.
You know, 10 minutes later, there it is. Today, I was coming home from Edmonton. And on my way, I'm like, you know, buddy, I'm driving. What are the chances you send me another moose just to say, because I was saying, you know, I have this talk with Bonnie tonight. Show me a sign. It'd be really great to get a sign. So I'm driving along just this side of Slave Lake. I look over and I'm like, there's a moose. And I was like, it's pretty good, but I barely missed it. Like I
almost missed it.
I almost missed it. I don't know if that was really a sign or if that was a coincidence, right? So, and here I am just, you know, I asked for a moose. I see a moose and I'm still going, I don't know. So I'm like, you got to trust it. Not even 5 minutes down the road, a deer and her baby.
Oh.
And I had to stop on the highway for them to go across. And I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. But you got to trust. And I could, you know, just say, oh, that was all coincidence. I know it wasn't.
Absolutely. And I think there, you know, as you said too, you always thank him. And I think this is a big piece of it, you know, instead of saying, oh, that wasn't a sign, you want to say, oh my gosh, thank you for that. And next time, can you bring it in clearer? Next time, can you do it during the day instead? Next time, you know, thank you, right?
Have a conversation like he's right because he is.
Because he is.
They're not gone. They're right here. They're interested in what we're doing. They're still involved in our lives.
Yeah.
every
People
day.
people will often say, even in a reading, they'll be like, tell her or tell him this, and they have, and I'm like,
I
you know
just
what?
did.
You just told them. They're right here. They heard you,
Yeah.
You don't need to be, tuned in, tapped in directly to their spirit, because they're still with you. They're just not physical. And so you can talk to them, just as Diane and I have been sharing in conversation here tonight. So Diane, of course, how quickly this has gone by. I want to say thank you so very much. I know it's crazy, right? How quick it goes. Thank you so very much for taking time out, of course, to be here. I always enjoy our conversations, the wisdom, the light, the love that you are, and the gift that you bring to this world. So thank you very, very much, Diane.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. And to everyone else, thank you for being a part of the conversation here tonight. I will see you same time, same place tomorrow with our next speaker. Bye-bye.